So often when we talk about Children's Hunger Fund, we talk about the things that God is doing in remote villages and slums around the world. But I want to take a moment and just tell you about an experience with a young mother here in Los Angeles. I remember meeting Sylvia years ago and hearing her story. Sylvia was a young mother, had two young kids, and she just went through a very challenging period in her life where the relationship she was in, the husband or the partner left, and she had two part-time jobs, and over a period of a very short period of time, she lost both those jobs. She found herself in a very challenging situation where she found it difficult to put food on the table for her kids. As days went by, this situation became more and more intense, and she became more and more distraught. She reached the point where she felt life was no longer living. And sadly, this type of situation we hear about quite a bit, not just in Los Angeles, but in other lives across our country where life can be hard. And in the case of Sylvia, she became so distraught, she talked about taking her life. And the day that she reached that point where she felt life was no longer living and her only solution was to remove herself from this world, that's where God entered into the equation. On that particular day, there were two women that knocked on her door. Those two women were from a local church that just so happened to have been trained by Children's Hunger Fund, and they arrived at her door with a food pack. Using that food pack, they engaged her in a conversation. Sylvia invited them into her home and into her life. And through a process over several weeks, not only did they meet Sylvia's physical needs and the needs of her children, but they engaged her in a relationship. They began to tell her about how much God loved her and cared for her, began to tell her the hope that she could find in a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. And what's so exciting is that today Sylvia is no longer on her own. She now has a church family that she loves and that she knows cares for her. And she's gone full circle from being dependent on that food pack to now serving with that church and doing home visits herself to go take the gospel to other families in her community. To me, that's just such a great example of God's love and care, first for the individual, but how God takes that seed of faith that's planted in a life and He can use it to impact others.